Hey guys, so as you can hopefully tell by now, I'm at Biggin Hill Airport, and I just wanted to start this video by saying a few things about this place because Biggin Hill is very special to me. It holds a very special place in my heart for a few reasons. So not only is it my most local airfield, but it's where I first had my first trial flight when I was 13 years old. It was actually at a building which is just over here called Class Air, which is no longer here anymore. It's changed hands. But even though before that flight I knew that I loved flying, it was that flight which made me realise and confirm that it was definitely what I wanted to be doing for the rest of my life. In addition to that, every year me and my family would come to the Biggin Hill Air Show, which sadly no longer runs, but it holds such good memories in my mind. We'd come every year, set up a tent, we'd have a picnic, and all day long we would just watch the amazing aircraft, whether they were Spitfires or new aircraft like the Eurofighter Typhoon. I remember it all so vividly, considering the first one we went to was so long ago now, but it was so enthralling and something that just sticks in my memory. And lastly, when I was at secondary school, my mum would drop me off to the bus stop with my brother, and occasionally I'd wait for my mum's car to go outside, and then I'd walk on to the next bus stop where I'd then catch a bus to here, Biggin Hill, where I would then bunk off school and plane spot all day. I didn't do it regularly, but occasionally, I'm not gonna lie, I did do it, so sorry mum if this is the first time you're finding out. But some days all I wanted to do was just come and plane spot. I didn't want to go to school and study. It seems like a silly thing to have done, but I don't have any regrets. So my point is, Biggin Hill will always hold a very special place in my heart. I've always known that I've loved flying, but it's here at Biggin Hill where I've been able to fulfill that love and truly understand it. But I'm older now, I'm 24. Locality is no longer the biggest factor for me anymore. I can drive, I own a car, therefore I can spread my horizons a lot further than my local bus would take me. Therefore I've got to that point where I'm thinking perhaps it's a good idea for me to spread my wings further than the reams of Biggin Hill and actually consider other airfields that are kind of local to where I am. So even though I'll always love this place, I think I'd be a fool not to shop around and check out some of the other airfields. And so that is what this video is all going to be about. Okay, so here's how this is going to work. I'm going to be checking out 4 flying clubs from my 4 local airfields and be scoring them on 4 things. Those are going to be locality, price, atmosphere and facilities. So I'll break those down a little bit further. So number 1, locality, is quite simply how long it takes for me to get there. For this test I'll be doing them all roughly at the same time so that it will be a fair test. So number 2, price, quite simply how much does it cost to rent the aircraft, how much are landing fees, how much are touch and goes, etc, etc. So number 3, atmosphere. This is going to be a little bit hard to gauge this one, but you know how sometimes you'll go to a flying club and you'll walk in and you know it's a bit old, a bit dingy, it's not very clean, the people aren't very inviting, then you know you feel like this isn't really for me, this isn't going to work. But then on the contrary, you may walk into another place and it's clean, you know, it looks quite new, it's got good facilities, everyone kind of seems to be interested in what other people are doing, and you think like, yeah, this could work. So number 4, facilities. This is going to cover a wide range of things. So this isn't going to be only about the flying club, but also about the airfield. So in terms of the flying club, it would be like, what type of aircraft do they have? You know, can I further my skills by learning in other aircraft, perhaps like an aerobatic plane? How many aircraft do they have in their fleet so I can see what availability is like? Kind of like the facilities inside the flying club, do they have places where I can do all my pre-flight planning and go on the computer? And then also for the airfield, it'll be things like what type of surface runway do they have? Is it grass? Then is it going to get waterlogged in the winter? what type of traffic do they have on that airfield? Am I going to be mixing it with the big boys in the jets, or is it just GA only? Is there like microlights? And then also lastly, also other things like, is there a cafe? So as you can see guys, I'm covering quite a wide range of things. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how these flying clubs fare. So then by the end of it, hopefully we'll have a scoreboard and we can see which flying club scores the highest and which club I will then be joining. Okay, so here are the 4 flying clubs at 4 different airfields which I'm going to be checking out. Okie dokie, so we have now delved into the world of Google Maps. So for those of you that don't know, I live here in the great city of London and have done so for my whole life. So this is where I'll be commencing my journeys from. So the first flying club is EFG at Biggin Hill Airport, which is where I've been doing all of my flying for the past 2 years now, I guess. And I know what you're thinking. I thought this video was about you finding a new flying club. Well, yes, it is, but if EFG at Biggin Hill scores the highest over all the tests, then of course it makes sense for me to stay there. And so now the next flying club that we're going to be checking out is Cub Air Flight Training, which is at Red Hill Aerodrome, which as you can see is slightly further south than Biggin Hill. And then moving on to the next one, which will be Skytrek Flying School, which is based at Rochester Airport. So we're moving over to the east now. And then lastly, the last flying school is going to be Northfield Flying Group, which is at Northfield Airfield, which as you can see is a fair bit to the north now. So quite a wide spread of airfields as you can see guys. So I'm really going to get a good idea of which flying club will be best for me after all these tests are done. And I can't wait. So without further ado, let's move on to the first test, which is locality, and EFG at Biggin Hill is up first. Okay guys, drum roll please. We have made it to Biggin Hill at a time of 35 minutes and 11 seconds. That's pretty good going. There was hardly any traffic whatsoever, so we made it in pretty good time, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be the quickest time that we're going to have on this test. So as I said guys, this is no surprise really. Biggin Hill is my local airfield, therefore I'd be shocked if it wasn't the quickest. However, saying that, I am still yet to try the others, so you never know, but I very much doubt that any of them are going to be quicker than half an hour. And to my absolute astonishment, there surprisingly was a quicker time than my journey to Biggin Hill. So after testing all 4 of the airfields, I can confirm that Skytrek at Rochester Airport was the quickest time. Only by a small margin, but nonetheless it was the quickest, so let's have a look at the scoreboard. Okay, so as I was just saying, Rochester was the quickest time with a time of 33 minutes and 16 seconds. Next up, not too far behind, was Biggin Hill with a time of 35 minutes and 11 seconds. And then next we have Red Hill which had a time of 43 minutes and 16 seconds, and then only marginally slower than that was Northfield with a time of 43 minutes and 34 seconds. Okay, so time to put some scores on the doors. Of course, Skytrek at Rochester Airport has to get a 5 out of 5 as it was the quickest time, and then I'm also going to give EFG at Biggin Hill a 5 out of 5, which I think is fair as it was only a couple of minutes slower, and in terms of actual distance from my house, it's well over half the distance of what Rochester Airport is to me. Then lastly, both Cub Air at Redhill and then Northfield Flying Group at Northfield Airfield are both going to get a 2 out of 5 as they were pretty much the same time, and they're also pretty much the same sort of distance from my house. So let's just have a quick look at the scoreboard. As you'd expect, it's quite tight at the moment. In joint first position we have Skytrek and EFG, both of those have 5 points, and then in joint second position we have Cub Air and Northfield Flying Group, and both of those have 2 points. So let's not waste any time, let's move on to the next test, which is price. So unless you're fucking rich, flying is ridiculously expensive, even more so here in the UK than other countries around the world. Therefore, pricing without a doubt is one of the biggest, if not the biggest factor for me when choosing a flying club. So I figured the best way to do this test, rather than just wading through the websites of each flying club and finding out how much their costs are and then comparing them, I think it actually makes sense to categorize the airfield, because realistically I can't expect a big airport like Biggin Hill to have the same sort of pricing as a small airfield like Rochester. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so I think it's fair to say that you generally have 3 types of airports. You have the big airports like Biggin Hill, which have full ATC, large hard standing runways, lots of security, large jets, and generally an airport that is running away to make lots of money. You then have your small airfields like Rochester, which have grass runways, air-to-ground radio, GA movements only with microlights and experimental aircraft, etc. And generally a sort of a relaxed environment with minimal security measures. And then you kind of have somewhere in the middle, places like Redhill, which kind of bridge the gap between big and small airfields. They may have full ATC or a flight information service officer, more movements than a small airfield, but not as many as a big airport, some scheduled movements and some security measures, but overall still a relaxed environment. So let's start this one off with Skytrek at Rochester Airport. So I'm going to start right off the bat and say I'm actually quite disappointed with Skytrek's pricing. As you can see, Rochester is a relatively small airport, it's all grass, it provides a flight information service officer and a very relaxed environment and GA-only aircraft. So for this pricing segment, we're going to focus on the Cessna 152 as most flying schools have them. So to rent a Cessna 152 from Skytrek is going to set you back £152 per taco hour. Now I'm quite disappointed by that, as you'll see a bit later on, that is very similar to the cost of what some big airports are charging. Skytrek's only saving grace for me really is that landing fees and touch and go fees are included in that cost. So if you're flying regularly, this can turn out to be a decent saving. However, honestly, I was expecting something a bit more affordable. Okay, so I'm going to quickly brush over EFG at Biggin Hill and Cub Air at Redhill, as honestly they're not too dissimilar. So To rent a Cessna 152 from EFG will set you back £155 per taco hour, which is only just marginally more than Skytrek at Rochester, so you can now see why I'm so disappointed with that, considering Biggin Hill is a much bigger airfield with a lot more overheads. However, where Biggin Hill will bite you in the arse is their extortionate landing fees. Landing in a Cessna 152 will set you back the best part of £30, which, as you can imagine, can soon add up to a lot over just a few flights. Moving on to Cub Air at Red Hill Aerodrome, they actually don't have any Cessnas in their fleet, so for this comparison, we're going to use their cheapest aircraft, which is the Katana DA20, which will set you back £152 per taco hour with landing fees of £17. So nothing special there really. The difference between EFG at Biggin Hill, Skytrek at Rochester and Cub Air at Red Hill is actually very marginal, the only difference being the cost of the airfield charges, and ultimately that makes it quite disappointing all round. However, I thankfully was impressed by one of the flying clubs, and that of course is the one we haven't spoken about yet, which is Northfield Flying Group. As soon as I saw their prices, I wanted to drop everything and move there straight away, so let's have a look. Okay, so Northfield Flying Group is based at Northfield Airfield, which is an unlicensed airfield in Essex. It's a pretty big place with 2 hard-standing runways and 1 grass strip. However, more on that on another episode. For now, we're just going to be talking about their amazing prices. So Northfield Flying Group operate a monthly membership scheme whereby you pay £70 a month, which then allows you to rent their aircraft at very cheap rates. So renting a Cessna 152 will cost you a mere £105 per taco hour, and just to give you another example, you can also rent their Cessna 172s for just £130 an hour. So what this means is you only need to be flying a minimum of 2 hours a month, and you're already making a decent saving over all the flying clubs that we've spoken about already. And furthermore, if you're hour building, then of course the more you fly, your savings just become greater and greater. Oh, and the landing fees are included in that price as well. So as I was saying guys, as soon as I saw these costs, it made me want to move to Northfield and join their flying club straight away. It's nice to see a flying club that is truly thinking outside of the box and thinking of ways that their customers can get the most from their flying for cheaper. So, time to put some scores on the board again. No surprises, of course, Northfield Flying Group are going to get top marks for their amazing pricing structure. Up next is Skytrek. Even though I am disappointed with their prices, landing fees and touch and go fees are included in the price, so I guess that has to count for something, so I'm going to give them a 3 out of 5. And then lastly is Cub Air and EFG. I'm going to give both of them a 2 out of 5 as their prices are nothing to shout about. So let's jump back into the scoreboard. Sitting high and mighty in first place is Skytrek with a good score of 8 points. In joint second place is Northfield Flying Group and EFG, both with a respectable 7 points. And then sitting in third place with a very low score of 4 points is Cub Air. So they're going to need to do a lot of work if they want me as a customer. Okay guys, that is it for part 1 of this 2-part series. I hope you guys enjoyed it, despite there not being any flying. However, I thought this would be a cool video to make, so let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Make sure you check out part 2 of this series where I'll be going over atmosphere and facilities, and then I'll be putting all the points on the scoreboard and then deciding which flying club I will then be joining. One last thing, guys, we're very close to hitting 1,000 subs, so thank you very much to all of you who have been subscribing and commenting this whole time. 1,000 isn't very much in the world of YouTube, but it means a lot to me, so thank you. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I shall see you in the next video. Peace! It's a fucking cobweb on there.
What the fun?
It's a fucking spider.
Right.
You ready?
Yeah.